to his trophies. The room was a haven to which Joe could return to rediscover who he really was. Not the recluse hiding from the world in self-degradation, but the proud champion, the role model for young blacks in the 30s, the 40s, and onward, with immortality assured both in boxing and in social history. A job at a London casino was Joe's next pit stop in his race to keep ahead of himself. He clowned with songstress Petula Clark and tried to get into the spirit of London nightlife. But maybe he had too much on his mind. Like the problem of his illegitimate children whom he loved. The same woman who bore Joe a child, and who, incidentally, he said, turned him on to cocaine, had 3 other children by other men. Incredibly, Martha and an aging Joe fighting his drug habit took them in, too. Martha had also taken on Joe's interminable battle with the IRS.
The penalties and the interest had grown to such an enormous amount. It could never be really paid off dollar for dollar. At one time, Joe was appearing here in Las Vegas with Pearl Bailey at the Flamingo. So they sent through a hold on the money that he was supposed to be paid. I said, if you take it, Joe isn't going to work. I said, he can eat, he can sleep. I'm working. So Joe just won't work. So what are you going to gain by it?
It was a shameful thing to see a man like him, great fighter, great human being, being humiliated and destroyed in this manner, because after all, when you owe Internal Revenue money, no matter what you have, they take away from you. And they took a lot away from Joe Louis.
But not even Martha could cope with the demons within.
The first thing that happened to Joe of significance was the fact of this paranoid condition, that he felt that people were after him and they were trying to put gas on him and they were trying to do various things. And as a result of that, he was committed to the hospital in Denver for psychiatric help. This was what was done so that Joe could get the help that he needed.
Sugar Ray Robinson and Max Schmeling were in Vegas to welcome Joe home from the hospital, along with actor Anthony Quinn and Billy Kahn. To Max and Joe, a cake decorated with a miniature boxing ring recalled to their amusement the famous shocker of long ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, the referee for the main event, the greatest. From Detroit, Michigan, the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis.
The crowd in the garden was cheering a man who had pulled himself up from the canvas again, as he had in his glory days against the Galentos and Walcotts. The standing ovation was testimony to his toughest fight of all, against the invisible opponent of his later years, adversity, financial, physical, and psychic. After wandering through the economic desert for 30 years, at last Joe found an oasis and a steady job at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
Well, I'm a host. I shake hands, but I've been with the hotel 6 years. I'm enjoying my stay in with the hotel.
There were those who thought it demeaning for him to front for a garish gambling casino. But an easygoing, innately gracious Joe Louis liked his job and took it seriously.
Nancy, would you be kind enough to invite two? I have 2 little granddaughters.
What did the people ask you when they shake hands to you?
Well, getting most of the questions you get that, dude, I think I could have beaten L.A. And that's my biggest, I get that question more than anything. But I enjoy talking to people.
And do you think if you meet Ali, if you fight Ali, who's going to win?
Well, I was with him in his camp, so I think he was a very good fighter.
He was now a fixture at Caesar's Palace, where the owners staked him money to gamble. His winnings he kept. His losses, and he was notoriously unlucky, they gladly swallowed. This was hardly a storybook ending for the most popular of all heavyweight champions, but he was enjoying the limelight and the attention of the famous who welcomed him back from his years of darkness. An old injury from the circus nights of wrestling required heart surgery, followed by a stroke that put Joe in a wheelchair. Fate had dealt him more than his share of losing hands. Along with the winners, his friends preferred to remember. Every man's life can be related to the 4 seasons. The spring of youthful promise, the summer of fulfillment, autumn, the beginning of the fall, and finally, the bitter cold of winter. But the great ones get, and sometimes even live to enjoy, a second spring, when past glories are remembered and the whole life is brought back into focus. Even though he had to rely on the kindness and charity of friends, rather than on the legitimate independence his earnings should have provided, still he was fortunate to have such friends, drawn to him not only for his power in the ring, but for his genuine dignity and integrity.
If you look at this crowd here today, this is just 1/10 of the people that want to be here. The people who love to know Joe Louis, the poor people around the world, the black and white, all kinds, they just couldn't get here. If you had something for Joe Louis, we could have the Superdome packed 5 times in New Orleans to help Joe Louis. 5 times you could fill the Superdome. That's how great he was.
I feel that if anybody can follow behind Joe Louis' step, they have accomplished something, have achieved the goal. Just like the legend Muhammad Ali's done himself. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be as half of a champion that Joe Louis was. And I feel that I've done a lot.
He was my idol, and we lived together in Detroit, where I was born. I used to carry the bag for him down at Brewster Center. I had the idea maybe I wanted to be a fighter, but I wasn't sure yet. But after we moved to New York, then I got started in doing it, and he was a big help to me.
He was probably my only hero, the one that really stood out. You know, I admire a lot of people, but Joe Louis was really my only hero.
When there was no television, when there was radio, we used to all, like the streets, whenever he fought, the streets were empty. Now, the minute the fight was over, you'd see, no matter what time, 11 o'clock at night, because they used to fight about 10 o'clock at night, everybody would run out, and you'd see hundreds of guys. Did you hear the way he hit him with the left hook? And we would imagine it better than we ever saw it.
When I was a teenager, black youngsters had no symbols of success to which they could turn. Joe Louis became our symbol of achievement. He became our idol. Ultimately, he became the idol of the entire country, indeed the world. He has demonstrated that sense of dignity and that spirit of achievement that makes all of us very proud.
We've been friends for about 35 years. And first time I ever saw him, of course, I've been cheering ever since.
All right, let's go.
And I think that this is long overdue, Dick. I think this should have been done a long time ago.
I'm glad you're doing it.
God bless him. I think he's gonna have a good time tonight.
Come on.
Okay, let's go. Good to see you.
Let's move. First shot.
We now return to biography.
He'd go out to Caesars, to the games. As a matter of fact, the night before he died, he was at ringside at Caesars, looking good.
Heavyweight champion of the world, the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis.
By executive order, Joe Louis was buried at Arlington with the honors reserved for presidents and American heroes. A fitting tribute to the sharecropper's son who opened the door to all great black athletes, from Jackie Robinson to Arthur Ashe and generations to come. Years before, sports writer Jimmy Cannon had written the epitaph that said it all. He's a credit to his race, the human race.